In the realm of superheroes, few names evoke as much reverence and recognition as Superman. With his iconic cape billowing against the sky, he is often heralded as a beacon of hope, the quintessential hero who embodies everything good in humanity, the personification of truth, justice, and the American way. If you were to ask anyone about Superman, the answer is almost universally the same. He is a symbol of hope. But why? Is it simply because he saves people from peril? What does this label really mean? Is it a label that has been casually attached to him, a title that comes with the character by virtue of his existence? More critically, we must ask, has Superman ever truly earned the title of a symbol of hope? In this video, we will delve into the cinematic iterations of Superman, examining whether they embody the essence of hope, or if they merely wear the label without the weight of true heroism. Christopher Reeve's portrayal of Superman in the Superman and Superman 2 films is perhaps the most iconic. His Superman is an optimistic, nearly flawless figure who embodies the best qualities of humanity. He saves people, is willing to do the right thing, and upholds ideals of truth and justice. But while this Superman is undoubtedly a symbol of hope, it's important to recognize that this hope is not earned in the way that hope needs to be earned. Reeve's Superman doesn't face significant consequences or moral dilemmas that would test the core of his ideals. His primary conflicts revolve around external forces such as Lex Luthor or General Zod, but these adversaries are mostly one-dimensional, lacking the depth that could challenge Superman's philosophy or force him to confront personal costs. While he's portrayed as a moral beacon, Superman does not undergo any kind of personal sacrifice or struggle that will make him the symbol of hope in a world that needs it. His heroism is almost too flawless, which makes his hope feel like a default expectation rather than something he earns through trial, struggle, or growth. Superman does not have to contend with complex ethical decisions or moments that will make him question the very nature of his mission. He saves Lois Lane, he stops disasters, and he defeats villains. But there is no moment where his ideals are tested to the point of self-doubt or moral ambiguity. This lack of true testing leaves him a symbol of hope by virtue of his being, not by earning it through the trials of the world. Brandon Routh's portrayal of Superman in Superman Returns tries to tap into the same sense of hope and heroism that Reeve's Superman did, yet his Superman is often criticized for lacking a real sense of agency. His return to Earth after a mysterious absence finds him trying to reclaim his place in a world that has moved on without him. This Superman is a hero trying to revive the hope that was once associated with him, but again, his journey lacks a true test of his moral fiber. The film's primary conflict centers around Superman's relationship with Lois Lane and the looming threat of Lex Luthor's plan to create a new continent. However, these issues feel too isolated from the larger existential threats that will place Superman in a position where his ideals, his beliefs in hope, will truly be put to the test. Superman doesn't struggle with a world that's turned against him or make difficult moral decisions that will challenge his role as a symbol of hope. Instead, he's more of a figure trying to regain what he once was, acting as a hopeful figure without having to undergo the rigorous trials that will earn that title. Superman's hope here feels like an ideal that is expected of him rather than one he earns. His return is symbolic of hope, but the movie does not push him to prove it in meaningful ways. Smallville's Clark Kent, played by Tom Welling, spends the majority of his time in a small town, facing off against threats that are localized and often personal. While this portrayal allows for an in-depth exploration of Clark's internal struggles, his alien origins, his love life, his relationships with his parents, it doesn't put him in a situation where he must prove his status as a global symbol of hope. The early seasons of Smallville are centered around Clark's self-discovery and his battle to understand who he is. And while the show occasionally touches on world-ending threats, these are rare and usually solved by Clark learning to use his powers more efficiently. The show focuses more on Clark's personal growth and the relationships around him, particularly with Lois Lane, Lana, and Lex Luthor. However, it is precisely this lack of large-scale tests, such as the impact of his powers on the world or difficult moral decisions, that prevents Clark from earning the title of a symbol of hope. While he saves his friends and loved ones, the weight of the world never truly presses down on him in a way that demands him to sacrifice or make an impossible choice. The show focuses on emotional growth and personal stakes, rather than proving that Clark is a symbol of hope for humanity at large. Superman's idealism may be present, but is never truly tested in a way that will make it feel earned. Dean Cain's portrayal of Superman is perhaps the most charming and relatable version of the character. His Clark Kent is more of a romantic hero, juggling his personal relationship with Lois Lane and his superhero responsibilities. This Superman is certainly hopeful. He's likable, witty, and always striving to do what's right. However, the show's tone and format prevent him from ever truly earning the title of Symbol of Hope in the way that is required for the character. The show, which focuses more on the romantic and procedural aspects of Lois and Clark's relationship, often places Superman in situations where the stakes are relatively low. While Superman fights various villains and works to stop threats to the city, his conflicts are rarely existential or moral in nature. Most of the time, he's fighting ordinary bad guys or dealing with personal dilemmas like hiding his secret identity or managing his romance with Lois. The idea of Superman as a symbol of hope is more aspirational here, based on his unwavering goodness and charm, but it is not earned through the kind of suffering, sacrifice, or world-shaking moments that will truly elevate him to that level. He does the right thing when the moment calls for it, but there is little pressure placed on him that challenges his sense of duty or forces him to make a sacrifice on a grand scale. The show is light-hearted, and while it portrays Clark Kent as a hopeful figure, it doesn't push him to the point of personal crisis or test his role as humanity's savior in a way that will make him a true symbol of hope. Tyler Hoechlin's Superman in Supergirl and Superman and Lois represents a more grounded and family-oriented version of the hero. In Superman and Lois, Clark Kent balances his duties as a father, a husband, and a superhero, creating a more intimate portrayal of Superman's life. He embodies hope through his relationships, offering guidance to his children and trying to balance his responsibilities as a father. However, this version of Superman doesn't face the same existential tests that will push him into becoming a true symbol of hope. The show leans heavily into emotional stakes, such as his relationship with Lois and his family, rather than putting him in situations where his idealism is put to the test on a larger societal scale. His hope is often expressed in quieter moments, offering comfort and inspiration to his family and community, but he's not forced into situations where he must sacrifice something profound for the greater good of humanity. In this way, while Tyler Hoechlin's Superman is a symbol of hope for his immediate circle, his heroism doesn't extend to the broader world in a way that forces him to earn the title. His hope is often portrayed in the safety of his relationships, rather than through sacrifice, conflict, or difficult choices that challenge him morally. When we analyze the various portrayals of Superman across these different iterations, it's evident that they often operate within a framework where their hopefulness is simply an inherent part of who they are, without much exploration for the consequences or personal sacrifices required to earn the mantle of symbol of hope. These versions are either given the title of symbol of hope or they wear it as a default expectation, but never truly earn it. The idealism and hope associated with them are often handed down through the story, and while they are certainly heroic, they don't face the level of personal sacrifice or the world-altering stakes that will push them to prove their worthiness of that title. The hope they represent is not forged in the fire of adversity, but is instead a default status that fits neatly within their narratives. Now I've spent the last few minutes talking about the various iterations of Superman and stated why I felt their title of Symbol of Hope felt unearned. But I failed to answer the real question of this conversation. What does it mean to be a symbol of hope? To explore the significance of being a symbol of hope, we must first consider the essence of hope itself. Hope is not merely a passive state of optimism. It is an active force that inspires action, resilience, and courage in the face of adversity. A true symbol of hope embodies these qualities, representing the potential for a better future and the strength to pursue it, even when circumstances seem bleak. In the context of superhero narratives, a symbol of hope must face challenges that test their ideals and beliefs. They must confront their fears, endure sacrifices, and rise above societal doubts. This journey transforms them into more than just powerful figures. It makes them relatable, grounding their heroism in human experience. A symbol of hope should evoke inspiration, encouraging others to believe in their ability to overcome obstacles and strive for a better tomorrow. Furthermore, a genuine symbol of hope often acts as a catalyst for change, not just for themselves, but for those around them. They motivate others to embrace their own potential, creating a ripple effect that can uplift entire communities. This transformative power is what distinguishes a mere hero from a true symbol of hope, one who not only embodies optimism, but actively cultivates it in others through their actions and sacrifices. With this understanding of what it means to be a symbol of hope, we can now turn our attention to Zack Snyder's Superman. In Snyder's version, Superman doesn't arrive as a flawless hero, nor is he instantly celebrated. Instead, he is seen as a potential threat, an alien whose powers could tip the balance of power on Earth. Snyder explores a far more complicated and humanized Superman who must earn the world's trust. In Man of Steel, Clark Kent's early life is defined by a struggle to understand his identity and place in the world. Growing up, he is an outsider, forced to keep his powers hidden out of fear of rejection or worse. His father, Jonathan Kent, advises him to stay in the shadows, arguing that the world may not be ready to accept someone like him. This guidance is controversial as it emphasizes Clark's vulnerability and fear, emotions we aren't used to seeing in Superman. Yet this internal conflict makes his decision to reveal himself to the world as Superman all the more significant. He steps into the light not for personal gain or admiration, but to do what's right, knowing fully well that the world might react with distrust. Clark's moral journey is complicated further in his battle with General Zod. Here, he is forced to make a painful choice, to kill a fellow Kryptonian to protect humanity. This controversial decision isn't about showcasing a Superman who avoids difficult choices. It's about depicting a Superman willing to make those choices, even at a great personal cost, for the greater good. Snyder emphasizes that true heroism sometimes involves bearing the weight of impossible choices, and the anguish on Superman's face as he makes that choice reflects the burden of moral responsibility he carries. In Batman v Superman, this suspicion only intensifies. Despite his heroics, Superman is summoned before a Senate committee to answer for the collateral damage caused in Metropolis. Instead of being universally embraced as a hero, Superman faces protests, media scrutiny, and government intervention. He is questioned, criticized, and ultimately framed as a potential menace. This public doubt forces Superman to question his place in the world. This portrayal challenges the traditional image of Superman as a universally beloved figure, suggesting instead that hope is something one must actively fight for, not something freely given. Despite the world's mistrust, Superman continues performing heroic acts, not because he seeks approval, but because he believes in doing what's right. In Snyder's films, hope is not a given, it's a choice Superman makes despite the fear and opposition he faces. In the climatic battle with Doomsday in BVS, Superman chooses to sacrifice himself to protect humanity. This selfless act goes beyond the classic heroism depicted in previous films. This version of Superman, unlike past portrayals, puts his life on the line for a world that has not fully accepted him. He chooses to fight for humanity, even when humanity questions his motives, showing a commitment to hope that is born out of genuine sacrifice. This sacrifice is deeply impactful for both the world and the heroes around him. It serves as a turning point for Batman, who initially saw Superman as a threat, but comes to respect and even idolize his selflessness, and makes it his mission to continue Superman's legacy. Wonder Woman is similarly moved, choosing to re-engage with humanity. The Flash is inspired to be a hero as a result of Superman. By laying down his life, Snyder's Superman becomes a symbol not only of hope, but of resilience and selflessness, sparking a ripple effect of heroism that extends to the other Justice League members and the people of Earth. By the time we reach Justice League, Snyder has not merely deconstructed Superman, he has rebuilt the character. Superman's resurrection in this film symbolizes more than his physical revival, it's the rebirth of hope itself. His return to action is not simply about restoring a fallen hero, but about presenting a character who has risen above doubt, rejection, and sacrifice. When Superman finally joins the fight against Steppenwolf, he's not just back, he's a hero who has earned his place as a symbol of hope in a world that desperately needs it. In Snyder's portrayal, the S on his chest isn't just a family crest or a title he inherited, it's a badge he fought for. By showing Superman's path from doubt to conviction, Zack Snyder enriches the character in a way that speaks to a generation familiar with overcoming adversity and embracing resilience. The major difference between Zack Snyder's Superman and the rest is how hope is portrayed. In Snyder's hands, hope is not an ideal effortlessly exuded by a flawless hero. It's an active choice, a leap of faith. Superman struggles, doubts, and sacrifices show that hope has a cost. Snyder's Superman becomes a symbol of hope, not by being revered or adored from the start, but by choosing to serve and protect, even at the expense of his own life. This portrayal reveals hope as something complex and challenging, something that requires belief and resilience despite fear and doubt. In contrast to the traditional Superman, who is often celebrated as a near-perfect figure, Snyder's Superman is relatable in his vulnerability and compelling in his journey. This Superman isn't an icon because he is flawless or universally accepted. He's an icon because he faces humanity's darkest fears and offers hope in return. Snyder shows that hope isn't about perfection or acceptance. It's about perseverance, the ability to keep going, even in the face of opposition. In asking whether Superman has ever truly earned his title as a symbol of hope, Snyder's interpretation stands out as the only cinematic version that really confronts this question, at least in my opinion. Previous versions assume hope is something natural, almost automatic, whereas Snyder presents hope as something complex, something Superman must choose and sacrifice for. This is a Superman who rises above fear, overcomes alienation, and ultimately lays down his life for a world that hasn't fully accepted him. This makes him a hero who earns his title and perhaps the most profound embodiment of hope in the modern superhero narrative. That's just my opinion anyways.